And now we're excited to get to Rings of Power and review. What episode is this? Good Lord. What is it? Six? Episode 6.
Episode 6.
I know there's so much hype around reviewing this show. Ross is in love. Here's the problem, Ross. You get punished for not being here, because then you have to double up on Rings of Power, and then you get more miserable. It is consumable one episode at a time, 1 week at a time, but then you've got to watch a lot of Rings of Power, and literally Ross is texting me, I hate this show, I want to die. And do you know what my response was, Ross?
I can't remember.
Wait until after the podcast. That was my response. We've got content.
You know what? I did it to myself. I could have watched it and just didn't. I was like, well, whatever. And I did it to myself. So
yeah, you did.
Here we are.
And then you're just.
By the way, what
yourself.
a rousing review for this season, huh?
I want to die.
I gotta say, I procrastinate on watching it because it's like I got so many better things to do. Even things like going out and fixing my sprinklers, which I hate to do. I'd rather do that than watch this. And so I put it off. I literally watched the episode right before I came down to do this.
Oh, I watched it a couple hours ago. like I'm a last minute homework guy. Not the worst I've ever done.
No. I watched this the day after we did the last one. I was ready and hyped.
Oh.
I totally didn't watch it 2 hours ago.
Oh, like ever. I'm such a last minute homework guy. This has nothing to do with what we're talking about. That I literally wrote a 5-page paper on the Golden Ass, which is a fiction or nonfiction book in Roman history. Ross, you probably know it. Great book.
Yes, I know of it.
Yeah, I read the book and wrote the essay the night before I turned it in and got an A. And the problem is I didn't learn my lesson because I got an A. Don't prepare, everybody. Do it at the last minute. To be fair to myself, it was so fresh in my mind reading it that it came out really well because I had just read it. It's like right in there. Like I knew exactly what I needed to say. This is the element of doing any papers. But we do have Rings of Power discussions to get into, nonsense to talk about. And Ross wasn't here for our new slowly going through Rings of Power in still frames with while avoiding copyright.
Oh, technique.
So we're getting technique. So we're getting hyped. We're going through the new episode. Actually, before we move along, Ross, your reflections of episode 5.
Oh, hold on. Let me get my notes. Hold on. I wrote notes. I don't like that this magic man that fell from the sky. We don't know who he is yet. I hate that he turned out to be. Yeah, I hate that he sounds Irish. I hate this. I despise it with all my being. His horrid little Fenian accent. Anyway, moving on.
All right.
Oh God, you know what? The one thing that stuck out to me, Farazan is the smartest guy in the show, and I don't care what anybody says. At least he was by that episode.
Even if he's got evil scheming, he's the smartest one there.
Yeah, he's literally just going like everyone's like, ew, you're going to follow an elf, including his dumb son, because he wants to impress a lady. And he's like, yeah, I don't like elves. And you know what would help me not like elves more? Is if we had a human kingdom that owed us and will trade us and make us money. Anyway, like he's the only one that's not a drooling moron in this show so far. It's just infuriating.
What, Galadriel and her There's a Tempest in Me?
God.
Like, you don't...
Also, Gil-galad is really creepy.
Yeah.
But he's also the only guy who is an elf that looks like an elf.
Yeah.
That's really annoying, because
he doesn't have
had him be Elrond.
Fluffed salon haircut that a lot of the other characters seem to have. Elrond
no, and he doesn't have like mega chin either. He doesn't have like jawline that can slice paper. He's just a very long-faced, like kind of thin-faced man, and he looks
great.
Which is
how the elves were described, and should have long hair, by the way. In the lore, the elves are supposed to have long hair, but not in Rings of Power. We're going our own way.
Yeah, and I like how Elrond is like only keeping his promise like by the letter of the promise, but he all but admits like by him saying what he says, he admits that like yeah, it's there. And
Right.
Gil-galad just like shames him, and it's like
He
oh,
bullies him into releasing
Alright.
information about Mithril.
yeah.
We're gonna
Um,
die.
I wrote a note here. I don't know why I wrote that. I just had a funny thought when I was watching with like Waldreg in that episode being like a weird creepo.
Hmm.
You know what would have been a really fun twist is just have him be actual Sauron shapeshifter man.
Yeah.
That would have been
He's
kind of
already
fun.
he's been there the whole time.
Yeah, like he's just hiding.
Yeah, that would actually have made more sense than what they did.
Well, no,
Yeah,
but
like
it would have been fun and interesting to have like Sauron manipulating stuff and being multiple people in the show. And you find out
Yeah.
later it's like,
Yeah.
oh, he's that guy.
It was all of them.
And he's that guy. And he's that guy. Where he's manipulating things, he's scheming, but that's not the show they made. Like, we're literally just writing a better show. And that's not the show we have to deal with right now. This is not the show we have to contend with and cram down our gullets.
I was actually just thinking along those lines earlier, thinking, they made Sauron such an idiot in this show.
We don't
When
know
it-
Sauron
when
is yet,
he-
Jason.
Well, the thing is
Spoilers.
that we know,
We don't know.
we know
who
from
Sauron
we know
is.
from the lore,
No.
we know from the lore that Sauron bamboozled the Númenóreans after they captured
That-
him
that's
and took
supposed to
him
be.
as a prisoner of war.
That's supposed to be season
Right.
2.
Right. And then he, on top of that, bamboozled the elves into helping him make the freaking rings of power for everybody so that he could take over everything. We know that from the lore. And I'm sitting there going, why aren't we getting something
Well-
like you said, where Sauron is multiple people manipulating multiple races to do his bidding? That should
Well,
be what we're
Perhaps
getting
I
here.
should interject here and be like, it shouldn't be shocking to you that this doesn't follow the lore.
Right. And,
Oh,
So this is whatever they want it to be. This isn't canon. This isn't the lore. So whenever I'm watching this and I'm thinking, oh well, this should happen, or this should happen, or this is what I have to erase all of that. This is a whole new
Yeah.
thing.
right.
When they
this
do
is
the
perhaps
whole
my my advantage.
right
and-
when they
and
do the
Val.
whole mithril thing, it's like that's not what mithril comes from. But this is a whole
Yeah.
different show. The mithril comes from a magical battle between a Balrog and an elf in a tree. Like that's where mithril comes from. That's not
Like,
where
in
it
a
comes
sense,
from in the lore.
I might be the exact person they want for an audience member, someone who watched the movies and didn't read the books. Really, don't care about like. It's not that I don't care. I didn't ever read them. Like I whatever. I read The Hobbit, I guess, but and I still am sitting there going like, what? Oh, that's really dumb. Uh-oh. Like,
Yeah.
and I mentioned this, and I'll keep this really brief. What the hell is with the weird watchtower / dam project built by the evil lord that uses the magic blood sword to unlock the dam? What? Why did you make it? Like, that's like.
We can go into detail
Evil
on that as we
irrigation.
reach it for irrigation.
Oh yeah, that's not episode 5. What else was there? Oh, the other thing that really bothered me was was that episode? No, that wasn't that episode. I love the part where Isildur gets chewed out by his dad. That was
Yeah.
actually that felt very not Lord of the Ringsy, but that felt right. Does that make sense? Like
Well,
talking
it
about
makes-
responsibility and you're not doing it right, and like how could you come to me wanting to get put to the front of the line when you can't stick to anything?
Yes.
Hey!
Yes. All of that was true.
That worked.
And I liked it because he was right. Because it's like,
Yes.
so you drop out of all of these other things and suddenly something exciting's happened and you want to go with us to Middle Earth? And he's like, no,
Yeah.
you're not responsible.
Yeah.
I can't trust you. And it's like, yeah, all of this, all of that.
I loved that part because that was actually how
How
people
somebody
would
should
react.
actually react.
Well, like a responsible good father / like man of the kingdom would behave.
Yeah.
Not Matt. Just
Also, the
responsible.
Army of Darkness training scene with Galadriel was awesome. Anyway, we can go on to episode 6 now.
Oh, just to point out the awesome
Even
thumbnail
sword.
that Silver did last week. The Do You Even Sword, Bro? as the thumbnail
Oh
for
my
last
god.
for last week's.
Ugh.
Uh,
That was the I think that was the point where I was texting you, Rhett, was that I wanted
want to
to
die.
die.
yeah.
It was so awful.
Well, I just like that you're like, oh no, it's the training episode.
Uh-oh.
It's the
Oh,
most
no.
pathetic training ever.
So we've got a
You'd
Dar.
think that they would be able to train their own soldiers to stab, twist, gut. I mean,
Jason.
They were
these
doing
are-
more complicated sword moves. What?
Yes.
I
no,
hate it.
no.
I hate it so much.
They're supposed
Anyway,
to
we
be
gotta move on.
the greatest warriors in Middle Earth, just by the way. They don't need her to
Certainly
explain
the
how to
most
stab a thing.
human warriors, right? Like, I mean,
Yes,
come
of
on.
the human warriors,
God.
the greatest of all time.
Uh,
So we have a Dar playing with dirt temporarily.
Making dirt
it didn't make
castles.
any-
he's making patty cakes. Don't worry about it.
And then he goes and
his
talks
whole
to the
dialogue
boys.
there-
What's that, Jason?
Yeah, his whole dialogue there about like was about I don't even remember how he said it, but basically he was like planting the seeds and stuff for life and in the face of darkness or something like that. And I'm like,
Face of death, yeah.
yeah, it's like you don't make any sense there, Adar. You're
No, but that's
leading
an elf thing. It's an elf thing, and he's sticking. See, do you get it?
I don't want to get too far past what's going on, but I had a epiphany. I sort of realize what the show's trying to do in a lot of different ways, and I'll try and remember them and bring it up as we go along. But valid to this point, the show wants to make the orcs a pathetic and sympathetic people in the show.
And
They
they're-
want you to make it feel like, don't they
failing
deserve
miserably.
their own land? They've been slaves. They've been treated horribly. Don't you want to be sympathetic to the orcs? Now, despite the fact, let's set aside that they look evil, all right? You might be encouraged to reflect on the fact that the orcs looking evil, maybe they're just misunderstood and they deserve a land of their own. If you've read the lore, Tolkien deliberately describes them as evil, like their motivations are evil. They are products of evil. But in the show, they seem to want to encourage you to think of them as, I don't know if it's misunderstood, but deserving life themselves. And it's almost like you want to be sympathetic to what should be the bad guys. And that they've been enslaved, they've been treated horribly, they've been killed and whatnot, and don't they deserve a place to call home? Don't they? So you're supposed to be sympathetic that Adar, called father, is literally the father of these orcs that he has helped raise. At any rate,
if you send your gold and silver to Middle Earth for as little as 1 copper piece a day, we can build a homeland for the orcs.
I have a lot to say about that at the end, anyway.
as a perhaps aside, I actually think Adar, the actor Joseph Mall, does a really good job. I think his acting in the show is quite nuanced and quite well done.
I agree, actually.
Yeah.
I agree entirely.
Yeah,
He's the
Adar
best
is
elf in
great.
the show, other than Gilgalad.
Yeah,
Gilgalad doesn't act like an elf, so
no. All right, so it looks like they're going to go after everybody hiding in the tower dam castle thing. And they've all run here to attack him. This has been building up for a while. That we're going to have our Helm's Deep moment. They approach the castle. They run across the bridge. They get inside, and no one's here. And he's like, "Oh, where they've all gone?" And he sees the little thing in the stone and the dagger. And he goes, "Oh, no one's here." And he's like, "The elf is here. I could smell him," because apparently elf stank is really easy to pick up from other elves.
they got that good stank on them.
And he stands up and just starts shooting. Arendir has been sneaking around and hiding around. He stands up and starts shooting some of the orcs. And then he sets his arrow on fire and shoots at the tower. This is the moment where immediately my mother was like, "Why didn't he just do that first? Why did he have to shoot a bunch of people?"
Right.
Like, why didn't he just shoot the tower? Oh, look,
He was
look
trying
at
to
tower,
drop it
you
into
get
the
out.
thing.
look at the rubber leg, how it's creasing here. By the way.
It looks great. I
It's
love
just
that.
happened to be the scene I stopped on. So that's a good point. Why did he start shooting people when he popped up? Why didn't he just shoot the tower immediately? And not to be too nitpicky, but an arrow on fire wouldn't immediately break a really thick rope, and one rope collapsing a tower seems really suspicious to me. Am I being picky?
No, I thought
Yeah,
the same
probably.
thing. I was like, that tower is being held up by one rope. Like, oh, uh-oh.
And a flaming arrow
Um,
just burst that rope into cinders.
One forest fire away from that to, or like an ember hitting that rope in your cooking fire, and you're
The
done.
whole
You
building
killed everybody at the
collapses.
tower. You're dead.
They didn't do it well. It would have made more sense if we'd had a scene where they were rigging the tower so that it would collapse on that, on the strength of that alone. We didn't really get that, and I think that's what they were going for, is that this tower, they rigged it somehow, but we didn't really get that. All we got was them glancing meaningfully at the tower, and then we got this. The other thing is that Arendir has shown himself to be a competent bowman. You would think that he wouldn't even need to be in the tower. He's an elven archer. He could be outside the tower and shoot the thing. But we had to have an action scene where he gets to shoot a couple orcs and then slam the door shut behind them as he gets out of the tower to make sure that they're in the trap there. But
well, as a writing style, they wanted to create a scene where it's like their scheme and their plan unfolds, where you go, "Oh my gosh, what a scheme and plan! What a trick that they pulled off." So you want the audience to react to the scheme as the thing is happening, so they get excited.
Right.
So if you give them a pre-preparation, then it doesn't unfold as a surprise for the audience, which is, I think, what they're trying to do.
right, but then we also get this scene. But then we also get this scene where it doesn't make sense that the tower was so vulnerable to collapse.
No, I agree. It doesn't make sense. And you're trying to get them to explain what is essentially a dumb action fantasy scene.
Yeah.
And you want them to go like, "Oh, well, there's a reason why this tower." They're not going to do that. They want it to be a surprise for the audience as well as the orcs standing in the castle keep or whatever. There are quite a few moments in this episode where janky wooden things, janky setups and traps, if not executed perfectly, would have never worked. The tower and the one rope. He hits a thing and the log like pulls it perfectly so that the door shut exactly the way it needs to.
Shut, yeah.
Like immediately I saw that scene and I was like, what if the log turns in an awkward way and it just doesn't pull the door shut exactly the way they need it to? There's a lot of like everything's executed perfectly, especially things that are subject to a lot of problems and variables. But I granted, this is an action fantasy movie. Of course, everything's going to do exactly the way, but here's how you could write it so it doesn't seem so like, all right, where instead of him hitting the thing and then the log pulling the door shut to block it, he sets the thing on fire and then they turn like they're going to run and it shows some humans pushing the door shut and barring it. So likely it was a plan, but they want some sort of weird Rube Goldberg setup where he hits a thing and then the thing pulls it shut. And it's like, you could have done that in a different way where it doesn't seem like magically it works out in exactly the way you want it to. You could just have a couple of people who stuck around to help with the plan. But I guess not. We don't need that. Anyway, we don't need to dwell too much on this scene. It's mostly dumb. But it collapses and all the orcs in there. It's horrible. How bad for the orcs. They're all inside this keep tower thing. And then it goes to everybody in the village going, yay, we killed a bunch of orcs. Let's go back to the village. They're going to be coming. We get a scene on the ships. I'm having trouble getting the scene on the ships. Here we go. We get a scene on the ships. and Isildur gets to talk to Galadriel, and Galadriel talks to him about humility. The most not humble character I've ever seen talks to him about humility.
Pot calling kettle there.
Was that Jason?
I thought that this was. I said pot calling kettle there. I thought that this was a bit dumb as well, because he comes up on deck so that he can see Middle Earth, and she says it should be visible to your eyes, and whatever. And he makes some comment about her eyes, and that she can see it, and she says, "Yeah, I've been able to see it for the past hour." Well, then you get a shift in perspective, and I'm sitting there going, how on earth did he miss all those mountains right there?
Well, you find out really clearly that this show has very little respect for time and distance.
Yeah.
And that is a major issue with this series. My bigger issue is with the dialogue. It's very indulgent and flowery, and it doesn't sound... It's like they're trying to be deep, and it just doesn't come across that way. It comes across like, oh, we're going to do a Tolkien thing. There's so many moments in this show, in this episode, where they stop and they have an overindulgent, like, metaphorical dialogue between characters. And I was like, again? Like, do we need to have a stop and sit down and talk about this thing? Like, what are we doing? Like, you get that once a movie, or a couple times a movie, not once an episode. But in this one, we get like 5 times an episode.
Because everybody's got to have their say.
A Tolkien-esque, metaphorical, encouraging moment. The Queen's on the ship. There's no reason the Queen should be on this voyage. She has generals. She should send them along. Why is the Queen regent joining in a battle? It's confusing and illogical.
Well, we can't have a man general. We have to have the girl boss, remember?
But she has generals. Why is she there? She doesn't... That's like...
Because she's not sure that they'll do what she wants.
That's like Biden showing up in Ukraine with a gun. That's like, you shouldn't be here. This is not for you. This is not... Anyway, we move to Arendir. He's trying to break the evil heroin dagger. And he's like, it's not breaking. And then they have a talk. There's a moment... Here's where one of my biggest gripes about the show, and I'm going to address it right now. They have a moment where they're talking about, we need to prepare for them. They're coming to the village. This is our best place to defend. And all of the episode collapses on me, logically speaking. So, and a village, an open village in a town with a handful of buildings is a horrifically horrible place to defend yourself. Yeah. By the way, it's open. There's a lot of entrances. There's a lot of ways to get there. The reason why you have a keep, why you have a tower with walls and big heavy doors, is to defend against large forces. Now, I suppose you could argue, well, we collapsed that to kill a bunch of the orcs. Best my estimation is it's like a couple hundred of them. Yeah, that was a better place to defend than the open village.
Yeah, definitely.
That's difficult to defend. That could be surrounded on all sides. There are multiple avenues, whereas the castle is very defendable. There's a narrow bridge going up a narrow pathway up through the mountain. There's only one sort of avenue of entrance. They could keep them off as long as they can. So the better story would be they pull a Helm's Deep-ish sort of thing where they hold up until help arrives. But instead, they break the most defendable location to kill a handful of orcs, to go fight in a village with a bunch of untrained, poor warriors who are farmers in an open village that's crappy. Sorry, Jason.
And what are all their roofs made out of? Highly flammable thatch.
Yes.
One fire arrow and the whole place goes up in flames. Everyone dies. Why they didn't do that for this? plot, I guess.
Well, this just seems like the worst tactical decision. Like it would have perhaps been wise if you collapsed the tower on a bunch of orcs to kill them, that gave you time to flee. But no, you just moved to the least defensible area, the village, with a bunch of your really poorly trained individuals. Like, I can't express how stupid this is. Why would you fight in this village? No, it's very dumb. And not to rewrite, like we haven't gotten there yet, but they could have done the moment where they're holed up at the keep and somebody gets out and runs for help. Maybe it's Bronwyn. She runs for help and then she encounters the Numenorians and then they come and rescue. But instead, we're going to have a last stand in a crappy village. Ross accurately described it as it felt like an episode from Hercules, The Adventures or whatever.
Yeah, the Legendary Adventures. Yeah, it did. Adventures. Especially once the spoiler alert, the Numenorians get there, but we'll get to that later.
We will get to that later.
And I guess the other problem is too, like you had mentioned this to me and prior to us getting on the podcast, but like not only do they leave the most defensible area, but I would forgive that if they had set it up a little bit better. Like, so let's say, because as far as they know, it's just them. Ain't nobody coming. They have no clue that these weirdos from an island nation are coming for some reason to this part of the world. They have no clue.
Right.
Now, if you had set up where like, hey, I got into contact with somebody and the Numenorians are coming with cavalry, and so it's like, hey, we can't, like, if they're going to help us, they can't be in the mountains. We need to go out on the plain. We need to go back to the village.
Yeah.
I mean, that's dumb, but at least there's a reason. But if you really believe it's just you, ain't nobody coming. Number one, they don't even send anybody out to try and get help. Not from no one. Number one. And number two, which is like, that's very stupid. Number two, it's like, if you really think it's just going to be you, just hold up in the weird castle, like up in the tower. What are you doing? Like, that's so bizarre to me.
Or if by booby trapping the castle, you wiped out a much larger part of their force. You know, they're now down to 100 men where they had 1,000 before. At least that would have given us some more, reason why they did that. Other than, well, we killed about 5 orcs here, and now we're going to go back and defend the village. The village that we couldn't defend before. That we fled to go to the more defensible place to begin with.
Well, that's what's so dumb. They fled the village because the village is a crappy place to fight in to go back to the village.
Yeah, it has weird tremors tunnels underneath it.
Yeah, the graboids are working round the clock.
The orc graboids.
Well, and then like the keep has this narrow bridge going up to the keep. Like, they could have broken the bridge. It'd been really difficult to get to the keep. They could have held out for a long time. Like, there are different scenarios that would have made more logical sense. It would have been such an interesting story if Arondir, the elf, left somebody he seems to have affection for and the people he's trying to help defend in an emotional way. I have to go and find help. So so he's rushing to try and seek help for people he cares about. It would be an emotional character connecting scene. It would have worked, but instead we get this. And also it doesn't explain later events, but let's shift on.
Yeah.
She tries to do an inspiring speech like Theoden, and it's not. It sucks. It's really bad.
Great.
It's not a good.
Yeah. Isn't that when what's his name? The elf. He chimes in and goes like, "Oh, I've seen smaller armies fight off."
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, smaller armies of elves or humans?
Well, or at least people
smaller armies of Superman.
People equipped to fight, as opposed to a bunch of random farmers, half of them women and children.
Yeah.
And can I tell you how much I love emo Theo sitting over here? I don't know what they told him.
Attitude.
He does have attitude. You're not my elf dad.
No, my elf did.
So they're all hyped up for a battle when they're a bunch of random farmers and incapable. And we get a little affection scene between the two of them. I don't know if I feel, I mean, maybe you guys might see something. I don't feel that there's a lot of, chemistry, I guess, between these two.
No. This is not a hot and heavy relationship, like romance thing going on here. He's bland and she's not much better.
To skip an inevitable advertisement that's coming, I'm going to put it down. Anyway, the orcs start showing up. They could see their torches at a distance. It's almost like they're trying to create this moody doom moment. It's like, oh, you can see one light, and then it gets bigger as they start to approach in the distance. So we're all getting hyped that the battle approaches. And I've got 30 seconds. Silver, what do you think so far?
They should definitely not be able to survive this, but
no, I had a strong impression
somehow,
they shouldn't live.
Through weird magic, it's like, yeah, they're gonna do it.
Well,
against an army of trained orcs.
Well, I mean, you could say that the orcs aren't really trained, but they're much more
capable than an average person.
Capable, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that the orcs really go in for training or anything like that, but they're definitely a lot more ruthless and yeah.
No, they go in for the scum tried to knife me. They do that.
Yeah,
that's their vibe.
Well, they're looking off the parapet. The orcs are coming. There's a big warning. Look at all the orcs.
Look at them.
Look at them all.
Gaze upon them.
Gaze upon them. So they have this moment where she's trying to there's some sort of booby trap plan or something. She's trying to light something on fire. To the point where they're approaching right up to her and she's still going And the first thing my mom's going, why didn't you have a little flame ready to go before they got there? Why don't you just hide it behind the thing or
candle?
Or why didn't you start the fire early before they got there, as opposed to just before they get there, you're awkwardly trying to use flint and steel to get a little spark going. It's like, this is the worst plan. The worst plan. But
also, why couldn't Elf Eyes
shoot it with a
male model Legolas just shoot it with a fire arrow?
Yeah, that super should have been an option. That's not what happened. But she goes and lights this fire. I don't know if I'm going to be able to let's see if I can't play this little. This might be overly critiquing, but this action scene made no sense to me. So he's looking for, if there's anybody around here, he goes to jump up on the cart here. He's looking around. He's got a flame. She runs out of nowhere with a really poor weapon and sticks him in the foot. Right? And he goes, somebody stabbed me. That's not my issue. She stabs him in the foot. He jumps off. She's over here. It shows her sort of go over here a little bit. The threat that stabbed him, when you turn towards her, no, he turns and kills the woman that has no weapon.
That idiot.
Right. So she stabs him in the foot. He jumps down and kills a woman to his right. Instead of go after the person that attacked him in the first place.
Well, we gotta understand that the orcs are a threat, and so we had to have someone die here. It couldn't be Bronwyn because she's too important.
Well, I realized
so it had to just be some village bystander number 2.
Well, but you know what though? Hold on. Wait a minute. Hold up. She's already gonna, spoiler alert, everyone. She's already gonna end up wounded at the end of this episode anyway. Why not? Why not have her get wounded here?
She's got to do a bunch of action kills first.
Yeah,
because he could think that he killed, he got her down, and then he turns and slices that lady's throat. You still get the horrible kill of that poor innocent lady.
But literally,
then you can, oh man,
danger, and then Bronwyn stands back up, kills him, and
Well, when it comes to threats, though, is he's standing on the cart There's someone to his right, there's someone to his left. He jumps off the cart. Instead of going after the person who's the threat with the weapon, he jumps off the cart, turns right, and goes, hey! And then he gets killed by the person he's not paid attention to.
Yeah.
This is...
It actually would have been...
Galadriel pushing a guy into a
Into the
jail cell and the other guy just walking in. This is that.
Oh, I guess I'm going. Uh-oh.
And then he turns and swings at her. So she's not that far away because you might get the impression she hid behind the cart. But he stabs the one woman and then swings his flame. So she's right there. The person that stabbed him. But he's like, no, she's not a threat. Random woman without a weapon's a threat. And maybe I'm over
she should have.
Is that,
she should have gone after his arm. She should have gone after his arm.
Well,
so as he's reaching
there are
over with the torch,
better things to do. I'm just questioning whether or not ignoring the person that stabbed you, who's a greater threat, and stabbing and killing the woman who's no threat at all, makes any logical sense. Like, she could have done 1,000 things. She could have ninja kicked him off at the top of it. His response is what's stupid, in my opinion. It's just what.
Yeah,
okay?
It really is.
Anyway, the whole
he sees a lady just standing there. Yeah. Anyway, go.
Yeah, the whole secret plan to take out these guys is to light a cart on fire and then kind of block them in a little area so they can shoot at them. So they're pushing these carts down the hill, rickety wooden carts down a lumpy hill, and it's not going to spin off in one weird direction or tip over or have any series of, see what I mean by, like, there are a bunch of like plans or secret like traps that have to be executed perfectly that could fail easily. Like this cart being pushed down a hill in a lumpy hill. It was like, at what point could this cart not have just like turned off to the left and then just missed what they were trying to hit?
Or accidentally, got stuck on something.
1,000 options. Tipped over. Fell on its side.
Yeah.
But
the rest of the village on fire.
But the plan, which we're all supposed to go, oh my gosh, what a clever plan. And it's not clever at all. What a clever plan gets executed, and they all get surrounded by flames because they push the carts. And here are the flames. My favorite scene after this, which everybody watching it was like, is so they're surrounded and they get shot a few times, the orcs, and they return fire. And they're like, oh no, this is terrible. And they're having a rout here. They're like, rabble. We don't like being shot at. See, here's them surrounded. Arondir is just picking them off. Here's the cart that magically... Is there an entrance here? Like, how did it get here? You see what I mean? Because if there was a road here, but this is blocked off, and there's a building, did it come in and do a Tokyo drift into position?
Yes. Hell yeah, brother.
All right.
Totally.
I'm trying not to copyright, but it's really hard to skip accurately because I want to get this scene because it's a great scene. It's a great moment, favorite moment. Maybe I skip forward a second. Oh, wait, we already missed it.
Oh.
So there's a small pile of wood that he goes over and goes, hey, and then they're out. Do you recall this moment where he kicks a small pile of wood like it meant nothing? He goes, and then they escaped. Everything's fine. I was like, that was a really bad. Like, it's not even very there. He just kicks it, and then the wood's down.
My fence.
Yeah, well, it seemed like random pieces of wood leaning against each other. This was the easily escapable plan. Like, it's not even on fire. You could have done a thing where the orcs kill themselves to try and get an escape. But it was just a couple pieces of wood leaning against each other. I feel like I'm being overly picky because there's a lot of really stupid moments in this.
Oh, yes. A lot. But it's hard to not, like, because you just, Like how immediately accurate those orcs were too was really funny to me. It's like, oh god, we've got them in close, and now they're horribly deadly. Uh-oh.
Oh no.
Turns out they're really good with bows. This is terrifying. We've made a mistake.
Arendir gets his fighting with giant orc guy fight. The choreography of this fight is really bad.
You know what it feels like? It feels like a Jackie Chan movie. It's like Kung Fu. This is a Kung Fu, our hero getting his ass whooped.
Yeah, kind of, now that you say that.
And it's
There are a lot of
undignified.
flourishes. There are a lot of exaggerated movements. But
Was
he
that
has
the
this.
scene where the orc like snuck up on him, or is that later?
I don't recall, but this is giant orc man.
That's the
Awkwardly-
scene where the orc like yanked them off the roof with a grappling hook.
Oh, yeah.
It was like when he awkwardly is like walking backwards, like, oh yeah, I've done it, I've defeated all of them. Just kind of like walks into an orc that's just standing behind him because he rolled a d20 on stealth or something. Just standing behind him. And he's like, he
it
just kind
feels
of like
like it's
stumbles into him, looks back at the orc.
It feels like they're trying to recreate like a Lurtz moment with Aragorn. But the fight doesn't come across as cool. It's just kind of like
really
this
doesn't.
orc's just bodying him. And then you get an incredibly awkward scene where he pulls the dagger out of the orc's eye as the orc's eye juices bleed into his mouth.
Tasty.
He
Like
gets-
Shrek says it's like jam.
He gets tasty orc eye juices. It goes from action scene to suddenly weirdly gory, like dripping into, like, close your mouth at least. Like, I get you're in a fight, but
Yeah, it's like a horror movie now. Like,
it was really weird. It reminded me of the weird horror movie moment where they first encounter that orc with the long nails. In the
or the
barn.
freaking warg where he's
Yeah.
like ripping people's guts out. It's like, what is the tone of the show? Like,
It's
I don't
hard
even
to
think
say.
they know.
Well, they win a group that should be victims of war. Just to clarify, they win a battle against a bunch of orcs. They should be horrible victims. And they find out that, they were dressed up with masks of orcs, and they were the people that fled. Well, mostly the people that fled. I don't know what the exact makeup is, because some of them are orcs. There were a lot of the people that fled who are they're now fighting. So they basically fled they fought the other villagers in masks. My mother had the impression of, you could tell if they weren't orcs.
Think so.
You know, the ones that don't stink or aren't grunting all of the time.
Yeah.
And
and hunched over and don't like squabbly like screaming sounds, and
Yeah, and not one of them
Well, you've-
went like, please, Fred, who I've known since childhood, don't kill me.
Yeah.
what do you think they were trying to do with this scene? Do you think it was supposed to be a shocking reveal, or
Yes.
what do you think you were supposed to get out of it?
I think that it was it feels like it's one of those things where it is a shocking reveal. It's like, oh no, they were killing humans the whole time. But also, like, who's the real monster here?
You
But
think
at
so?
the same time, it's like,
It felt that way when I was watching it. I don't know if that's what they were going for. But like I said,
I didn't get
it
that
felt
impression.
like
but
they're like,
it's
oh no,
initial
we've been
thought.
killing humans. But the way that they've been portraying the orcs as, they just deserve their own home and blah blah blah. It's like
You
it
want to be
made me feel
sympathetic
like,
to them.
yeah. And so it's actually the humans that couldn't distinguish the orcs from other humans, and so the humans are just wantonly killing whoever. It doesn't really matter who it is. Humans will kill anyone.
I don't know if I would agree with that assessment, but it's an interesting idea. You were saying something, Ross?
oh, just I think it was supposed to be like, oh, it's supposed to reveal like bad guys bad, and like, see, look, because I don't know, like I don't think it's an uninteresting idea, but I am very confused on what their point is. Like as far as is
Hey, we had a victory, but they were just other people of the village. So it is a hollow
Yeah.
victory, maybe, is what they're trying to get.
or like see what this evil, like the when men turn to evil, what happens, or I'm not sure. It's very strange.
Well, I found it interesting, at the very least, because my constant reaction to this fight was they shouldn't win this. There's no way they should
Yeah.
remotely have a chance. Why is everybody so awesome? They're a bunch of villagers with pitchforks. And then they win, and I'm like, and then it at least pulled back for me, because the reaction was, oh, we weren't fighting really orcs. We were fighting other villagers. So it mitigated
fighting-
they shouldn't have won, because in reality, they were only really fighting other crappy people just like them.
Yeah.
Um,
But it does bring into question how smart these people are. That you didn't realize these were not orcs, but whatever.
well, the rest of the orcs show up and people get shot, and Bronwyn gets injured, and so does Woolly Man. I don't know what his name is. She does fine with this little scene acting. I was slightly confused when he goes to break the arrow that she screams like he did something. I was like, he's just breaking it. She should scream when he pulls it out. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yes, if it jostled it, then yeah, that could hurt, but
Just have her go, arg, not, ah!
Yeah.
God, they should
Well,
have had me directing this. Fools.
But you should have directed it. Next season is apparently directed entirely by women.
Well, there goes my chance. My favorite show.
Temporarily,
Hey.
there's an opportunity to become a new
that's
lady.
not stopping you.
There's no stopping you.
Wachowski my way.
True.
That's right. So they're sitting there. It's horrible. The orcs are taking over. They're burning everything. And we've got a glory moment of the Numenorians crossing the hill. It's amazing. Look at them all.
How on earth do they even know where they're supposed to go?
Thank God they charged their entire way across the Southlands.
No break, got off the boat, and immediately started riding.
Their
No, I
horses
don't-
are super jacked.
I don't. As I'm looking at a giant map of Middle Earth, I don't know the exact distances we're discussing here, but it's almost like somebody landing in France and then immediately ends up in Germany. There's a great distance between any sort of shoreline and inside Mordor. By the way.
And knows with pinpoint precision where in Germany they need to be to rescue that one village.
Because there's no rivers that go up there, as far as I could tell. Well, and they have an urgency, like they know what's going on. No way they know. They are
We've got to save these
screaming
people.
across the plains in order to rescue them, and they don't know. Like I said, you could have had a thing where they're just defending the keep, and somebody snuck off to find help and found the Numenorians. So the Numenorians know where to go, who to rescue. They're in dire need. Let's go rescue them. But they're rushing in to rescue in a Rohan moment, and they don't know people are there or where they are, and they're in a hurry to rescue people they don't know exist. And no one knew they were coming.
They were so. Bronwyn was so. So protective of her son that she's like, you need to stay in the tavern, so you can protect the people that can't fight or whatever. She could have sent him away. Said, dude, go find help.
Yeah.
Well, it'd have been interesting for Arondir to do it because there's been a struggle. He wants to help the people he cares about, but he needs to go seek help.
Yeah.
It would have been.
But if he doesn't get help, they're all going to die anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been a great emotional moment. And there's so many horses and also slightly nitpicky. How did they fit all those horses in one amount into like 3-4 boats?
3 boats.
There's like hundreds of horses.
They were packed in like sardines.
It's really good for horses too. They really love to run after being packed in and traveled everywhere. They love that.
Like
Really
I said,
stress them afterwards.
time and distance seems to be a vague concept to the creators of this show.
Foreign
Minor
concept.
inconveniences to the show.
Immediately people are across the map where they need to be, whereas if you're watching actually Lord of the Rings or reading the book, it would take like weeks and months to make it across these distances.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if they'd seen like fire in the distance and they're like, well, let's aim our boats for that. That would have even been better.
A fire in the distance, that would be a massive signal. Something to explain why they're there, where they came from, or why they're rushing to this location. That would have been something. And I remind you, on a vague premise out of nowhere, when they hate all elves, they decided to completely change their attitudes and go to war to help an elf.
You know.
And they're rushing there. Well,
Change your mind and you go real hardcore.
Adar's threatening a lot of people. He wants the heroin dagger. And Theo tells him where the heroin dagger is. And they can see rumbling and they show up. There's a couple really awkward, like, Galadriel glory moments. I'll play this one here.
Oh, they were so bad.
My least favorite stuff is the goofy elf stuff that happens in the movies. And there's some goofy... There, she dodges.
That, yeah. Did she
Nearly
have to
falls
dodge
out of the
that
saddle to dodge the
dramatically?
arrow.
Yeah. Well,
and then the
she
orc
beheads him upside down.
explodes.
Yeah, watch this. Bam!
Yeah, I'm sure you got good leverage there, hanging upside down to swing your sword and cut off a head.
So does.
Well, also the awkward chain thing. Where they just had prepped a chain between the two of them because they knew they were going to fight orcs.
Well, you didn't like the Planet of the Apes moment? What do you mean? It's great.
I'm not an animal.
I'm a man.
Get your hands off me, you dang stinking orcs.
We get Queen Regent in, like, her holy sun armor when there's no reason for her to be in a battle, but all right.
Yeah, she's just standing on a hill.
She tells Isildur, "Yeah, go ahead, go charge into battle." One guy.
Go ahead, baby.
Well, he's really hyped. He wants to be a part of it. The only reason why he's there is to take care of the horses. So she's like, "You can go get your bloodlust on."
You, sir.
She really likes that move where she dodges off of her horse, by the way.
Yeah.
They animated it and they were very proud of it.
Or the stunt double did it. Whoever the stunt double is.
Maybe.
It's
a really good stunt double.
Can I just say, Morphin Clark is not an unattractive person, but she has got sour face. or that's what she's trying to do acting wise, but she has got perpetual stink face.
That boo-boo face.
Yeah.
Well, they're on Middle Earth among the humans, and, humans don't smell good. So she's, elvish, and she's got to portray that she finds their scent offensive.
Dare you?
Arondir, because she trusts the only elf because she's mega racist, turns to Arondir and he's like, "Get that guy. He's the leader. Don't let him have that thing." So she goes racing off, and Halbrand chases after. What's that, Jason?
Can I just say that as soon as he came out of the tavern, and he turns to the one dude and he says, "I got a job for you," I knew he didn't have the thing with him anymore. The MacGuffin.
Everybody
he didn't have it.
Everybody knew he didn't have it with him. He's leading him away. And that's a big issue I have because she stops him. And
no one checks.
No one checks.
No one.
Arondir says, "Stop him. He's carrying something away that's really important." She goes and stops it and picks it up. And no point does she look to see what it is. It could be vitally important, and no point does she look to see what's in the satchel. And a little thing. And we haven't gotten there yet, but it is oddly shaped in a sense that you could tell it is not the thing you're holding.
Yeah.
Especially if you're, not Legolas or Theo. Granted, it took Theo to realize it wasn't.
Well, Galadriel goes full evil and starts threatening him with torture.
Yeah, to let his vampire orcs burn alive. That's cool.
Yeah. And to his credit, he does make a point of like, well, you're the one that let
Who's
the evil in
one
him.
now?
But we do learn some interesting lore information. Adar is one of the first orcs.
Yes.
He is essentially one of the elves that were twisted, and that's why he has a sympathetic view towards the orcs, because they're like his children. So Adar is essentially an elf that's turned into an orc. He's one of the original orcs, which is an interesting. I'm not opposed to this line of lore.
That's fine.
I'm opposed to essentially them trying to turn him into a sympathetic figure where he cares about his children, and that I think is really dumb. But he goes on to explain sort of what was going on. That apparently Sauron was trying to look for some secret mystical evil lore, and he just didn't find what he was looking for, and he convinced everybody to go with him into the north, and he kept experimenting on his children and blah blah blah. And he references to his children being enslaved and murdered, and then later she goes, "Your orcs are slaves and I could murder them," which makes her out to be a psycho and him out to be a more sympathetic figure, which is weird way to present this information. She comes out to be like, "I'm going to torture your people."
Yeah. But you still don't sympathize with the orcs.
Well, they want you to, and they're presenting her as the psychopath and him not. Now, I don't sympathize with the orcs, but that's what they're trying to get you to do, is to see the orcs as sympathetic.
Exactly. But that's what I'm trying to say. They're trying to, they keep trying to present this. The orcs aren't really all that bad. They're just misunderstood, or however they're trying to do it. But what it comes down to is they're doing it so poorly that it never works. It never works. The orcs are horrible. They're ugly. They're disgusting. They kill and eat people.
Well, they're deconstructing the concept of orcs.
There's still nothing that they've done that has shown me 1 ounce of why I should have sympathy for any of the orcs. And they keep trying to do it over and over and over again, and it's just like, it's not working. Stop it.
It feels like they want you to think that Galadriel is a psychopath.
Yeah, she is.
And supposedly that Morfydd Clark, that's why she is the way that she is. She was told to present herself this way because they wanted Galadriel to seem like she is psychotic. She is overly driven. Her obsession with getting revenge is going to bring about doom upon us all. I mean, that's an interesting story with a character that shouldn't be like this. But then again, I'm not interested in that story in a Lord of the Rings setting, perhaps in a different scenario. Lord of the Rings, if anything, is about clear-cut examples of good and evil and fighting against, as opposed to any ambiguity in the story. That's not a Tolkien-esque Lord of the Rings. You can make that story just somewhere else. A lot of information passes between these two. She is crazy, and Joseph Mall as Adar does really well with what he's given.
Yeah, he's a good actor.
He explains all the drama. Morfydd Clark's a psychopath. I'm sorry, Galadriel. And then,
they didn't even know she was rolling.
We have this moment between,
"I'll torture you all," and it's like, good Lord.
We have this moment between a married Galadriel, very married, let me remind you, Galadriel, and
her husband doesn't exist in her head and in her heart at the moment. She never talks about him, even though she should be married and have a few children at this moment.
If I remember right, Elrond marries her
One
daughter
of her children
in the lore.
Yeah. Well, they have a heart-to-heart. They sit and chat. They talk about things in life. I don't recall getting much from this conversation. Do you?
They're trying to push that there's an attraction between these two. and that there could be an emotional love connection here with Galadriel, married Galadriel, and Halbrand. So
Well, we zoom back to the village, and they're having a massive feast, even though loved ones have just died, and nobody's burying anybody or fixing the place. Immediately, they're
we
like,
killed our own people.
immediately they're like,
complaining
set
about
out the
lack of food."
tables. It's time for Thanksgiving. It's like,
Yeah, that's
did
a
you?
good point, Val. Weren't they just had no food? So are they eating the rations
Yeah.
the Numenorians brought? Wait a minute.
The dead?
They were just on horseback. How much did they? Everyone must have had a gigantic backpack attached to their horses if they're having a feast. Then
Absolutely, they did.
Well,
They're
that's the problem with
prepared.
armies. Is armies are also composed of a huge amount of logistics. So things like food and carts and cooks and people to manage these things. And armies aren't just the 2,000 soldiers; they're the 2,000 plus like a 2,000 more of people to help care
Yeah.
for said army. And there's a lot more going on, especially with an army that's an expeditionary force into an unknown land. They don't know what they're going to find.
they must
well,
be
they
all
basically
their
have to bring
reinforcements
everything with them.
here.
They're currently having Thanksgiving amidst the dead, and Muriel and Ghost, they've never met before. I love this scene. They've never met before, and Muriel walks up to her essentially and is like, "You're a great leader."
How do you know she's the leader?
Precisely. When she's made nothing but horrifically bad decisions, to the point where nobody trusted her and half the village fled that they had to murder later. She just assumed responsibility over everybody, confusingly enough. But yeah, Muriel goes one woman to another, "You're awesome." And then she sees the pouch and she's like, you must be our king. I don't know what about this pouch makes everybody think that he's royalty. It looks like a little
I
shitty
don't
pouch.
get it either.
I
yeah,
don't.
it's just like
And at
The
no
ancient
point
king drugs and
does he claim royalty at all. At no point, everybody imposes upon him, you should be in charge. And it's like, what?
I mean, the thing is that it's the royal coat of arms. But the thing is that if you were a guardsman for the king, you would have been presented
Well,
with
you don't
something
know
that had
that.
the royal
You're-
coat of arms
you're-
on it.
You're extrapolating that, but it is a fair point if it's the royal coat of arms, but you don't know where he gets it. Anybody could have had
Right.
this.
Well, he
Member of the family.
he
He
said
picked it
that he
up
got
off
it
a
from a
body.
dead guy.
Right. So
Yeah,
at no
he says
point
he got
does
it
he
from a dead guy.
claim that he's royalty. Literally, Galadriel walks up and says, "You're the king of the Southlands." And he's like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah, you're the king of the Southlands." And then he runs into Muriel and she's
In a
like, "So
manner of
you're the king
speaking.
of the Southlands?" And he's like, "No." And she's like, "Well, this is really important. You should be king of the Southlands." He's like, I don't know. And then we finally get to a moment where another girl's like, "You're king of the Southlands." And he's like, "I guess." It's a bad scene. Well, the whole thing is dumb, but oh, by the way, they picked up that pouch. No one looked at it. They hand it to the Arendir. No one looks at it.
Yep.
It's really important. No one looks at it. Arendir gives it to Theo,
Yeah.
and Theo's the one that has sword addiction, and immediately he wants to look at it. And it's an axe, so it's weighted at the head, so it should be weirdly weighted. You should immediately
Not
tell.
only that, but even if you're saying, well, they could have mistaken the axe head for the Kulians of the hilt. The thing is that the axe head, like you said, it's weighted at the top. The Kulians wouldn't have been at the top; they would have been in the middle, the hilt.
Well, as we shift
Yeah,
into
it's
commercial time,
terrible.
we're about to get into this big moment of reflection, Silver.
Ugh. Yeah, this seems so freaking dumb.
I like your reaction there.
There was a much of a
Ugh.
reaction than that. But in the last episode, when I was like, I kind of think they're trying to tie everyone's stories together by pushing everyone, and it seems like that's what's happening
The
this
threads have been
episode.
brought in.
Finally, Galadriel and the village, have finally met up. So it makes me wonder, is Galadriel going to like show up pretty much everywhere and save everyone? Is that what they're gonna do?
We haven't had the crossover with the Harfoots that seem to just be on their
Yeah.
own nonsensical thing.
Don't remind me of the Harfoots.
Yeah, you forgot they were real. The horrible
Yeah.
Harfoots that will abandon you in moments.
They're
But they're not
figment of your
real. We won't hurt you.
Well, that being said, old man Waldreg takes the dagger and he sticks it into the thing at the keep, and it creates this weird Rube Goldberg moment where I guess the dam opens. Like, I don't know why the water's mystical goings on occurs, and this water lowers in order to create a flood that rushes down. This seems poorly designed if the water comes out so fast that it breaks this bridge down here. But you know, I'm no architect.
You're no engineerman.
I'm no orc engineer.
Angry.
And it floods into the ditches. And then they're having a heart-to-heart between each other as drama is happening. Anyway, the water starts
Drama.
spouting out underground, like when the ghost showed up in Ghostbusters.
Oh
'Cause-
god.
What?
Which the elves don't hear.
Yeah,
Wouldn't they be
should
able to hear that?
they?
Like,
Should-
oh, there's something going on. There's a rumbling.
There's a rumbling.
There's a rumbling in my tumbly. Oh wait.
Arendir lays down and
Oh,
listens
no.
to the ground.
Hears it.
And he could hear stuff's going on. He could hear the water. He's super excited because this is the fruition of all their efforts, of the trenches that they've built. And the water
Oh, no.
falls into the volcano,
Oh
into
no.
the Mautan, causing an eruption.
It could be spelling somebody's doom, if you will.
Well, so to reflect on this, so we're given the impression that this is a scheme that has been set down to create Mount Doom, though we don't quite know that, to create a great volcano. And that's why the orcs were digging the ditches. And that's why they wanted the hilt. And that's why this whole plan was set in motion in order to create this moment where the volcano goes off.
You could have just broken the dam.
Well, there's a few issues. So why did the dam? You could have broken the dam. Why did the dam exist? Did the dam exist with a heroin dagger solely for the purpose of managing the dam, or did it exist for this crazy moment? Like, is that why the dam existed? Is it just a dam? Because if it's just a dam, that's like saying in order to turn on the electrical system, you have to inject heroin or snort some cocaine in order to get the power on at the nuclear plant. Like, it's weird that you need a dagger like that to lower the dam to have water flat. What I'm suggesting is, if the dam was there to create the volcano, then wouldn't the trenches exist beforehand? So if the trenches didn't exist beforehand, then the purpose of the dam has nothing to do with creating the volcano. Am I not wrong?
Well, right.
Yeah.
The other thing is that if
So
you, if
why
you think
such a
about this
complex
being,
setup to open the dam? But go ahead, Jason.
if you think about this in terms of this plan was set up in advance so that they could make Mount Doom erupt and whatever else. Then we have to take into consideration that Sauron and the orcs built the dam.
Right.
But why would they build a dam?
Well, that was Ross's point. I was talking to him earlier, and he's like, I guess Sauron's really into like infrastructure.
Well,
building.
works.
Nations of the Dark
Yeah.
Lord.
he
I
likes to
can't
build
see
roads and
them.
dams.
I can't see them being like, all right, evil army here, we need to erupt this volcano. Let's see, how can we do that? well, there's a dam way over here. What if we just dig some trenches and make a river all the way to it?
Well, the
Well,
thing is,
so-
it doesn't even look like there's a dam behind that watchtower. Like, if they would have, am I crazy? Did I miss that? Am I forgetting? Because it doesn't I don't remember them setting up that there's like a lake.
In the
or, like,
overhead
a
shots,
reservoir.
I didn't get that impression until I finally saw the dam open.
Right.
Dear Lord,
Like, I didn't make that connection.
that's very silly.
Well, the other thing is that if it was, say, the men or the elves that built the dam,
they wouldn't have built
instead-
an evil dagger location to open it.
yeah,
Yes, exactly. the blood sword wouldn't have been the key.
The
Right.
heroin sword where you got to touch your blood on it to get it to open.
Love that.
Well, it's just the dagger makes this very confusing because it feels like they built this infrastructure piece to open a dam with a dagger that makes you addicted to it, and it gets bigger with
Oh yeah,
blood.
like brands your skin or something.
Right. Which is why
Like,
I
Theo
use
got that mark.
well, that's what's so funny because he exposes his arm and it looks like track marks.
yeah.
And that's why I use the example of like that's like using heroin needles to like start a nuclear power plant. That's weird. Like, why would you create a scenario where you required this weird heroin dagger that you get addicted to open a dam, which a dam has no reason or purpose to be open in a mysterious way or connection to the volcano because the ditches would have been there ahead of time. So the dam had nothing to do with this because you get the impression that they're trying to tell you that Sauron had this secret scheme that was placed down hundreds of years ago or thousands of years ago. This scheme using this dagger. But
Yeah.
that dagger has nothing to do with setting off the volcano because there would have been trenches ahead of time. So as far as I can tell, it's an evil infrastructure effort created by Sauron to manage water flow. That's the best I can come up with. And that Adar's plan was
So
like,
this whole-
I'm going to use this water to erupt the volcano, completely ignoring the fact that it's
Yeah.
not going to actually erupt a volcano. You would require so much water. There's no way this would happen. But assuming,
Yeah,
in
so
this
what
weird
if-
go ahead.
So many thousands of years ago when he's planning this, because Sauron's good at architecture and stuff, as we've established, I guess.
He's into it.
Yes.
That he's like, okay, so in many, many years, in order for me to make my comeback, I need to have this volcano go off. How can I have it go off? Okay, well, there's this mountainous range over here, and every summer when the water comes down from the mountain after the snow melts, it comes down to this point. So what if we make a dam, and over thousands of years it builds up into a lake, and then we have a secret weird dagger key to unlock it, but then they'll have to dig the trenches to it.
It's just, you're not wrong. It doesn't make, because as far as I could tell, the dam had no purpose besides being a dam. That's what it was there for. And that Adar's secret plan was to create these trenches. But the way they set up the scheme, you get the impression that it was a plan from the beginning to create a lake with this dam to set off a volcano. There are a lot of logical issues with how this is set up. This is a problem. Am I the only one enraged by what's going on, or are you just resigned? Are you a dog that's laying on its back and letting it happen?
It is
at this point, I've been beaten down.
I'm more head in my
it's just like-
hands.
It's a very stupid peak of an already not great show. Like it's just another, admittedly deep cut in the already 1,000 cuts it has. You know, like.
Well, this is supposed to be
so stupid.
This is supposed to be a moment like the other one where they reveal this thing and you're supposed to be shocked and surprised and oh my gosh, look at this is where Mount Doom comes. Oh my god, it's almost like the him
we don't know
shooting
that
the
yet.
rope.
It hasn't told us that. Hold on.
Well, this belies the writing skills of the creators of this show. It's the shooting the rope so the tower collapses, even though none of that makes any sense. It collapses so that they can have this cool moment of like, look at the scheme we did. And then this scheme, they dug trenches to set off a volcano. And it's like, why? Like, I would have bought more. Honestly, in a world with magic and evil, I would have bought more. Sauron's evil erupted the volcano. He created enough evil on the landscape to cause the volcano to just erupt into flames. As opposed to, I needed a practical reason for why this volcano erupts. I don't need a practical reason, despite the fact that it never would have erupted if they dropped that much water in it. That's not how volcanoes work.
I looked into it a little bit, if it's possible. A lot of things say, yeah, it is possible. Some eruptions happen when interacting with groundwater.
Uh-huh.
And there are volcanoes that are in the ocean that erupt, and even though they're completely engulfed in water. But I don't think it would happen in this scenario.
Well,
it might just cause an internal eruption, not an eruption like that.
I don't recall the YouTuber, but there was a scientist that talked about this, and he said you would require so much more water than what was displayed here.
Yeah.
It would have to be an immense amount to create an eruption. Essentially, you would have created a lot of steam in what happens here.
Yeah.
But the evil scheme comes to fruition, and lava rocks start falling from the sky, just murdering indiscriminately during their amazing Thanksgiving dinner amidst the dead lying on the ground around them. And the pyroclastic flow spreads across the landscape, which should kill everybody. And Galadriel stands there as a psychopath. I don't know if she's angry or shocked or surprised or what exactly is going on with her, but she simply accepts the multi-thousand degree pyroclastic flow in the face and doesn't try and get out of the way. Thoughts?
Everyone would be dead. No excuse. It's over 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit.
So, I've been to Pompeii, and one of the things that they talk about, and they're like, look, it wasn't the lava coming down from Vesuvius that killed all these people. It was the 1,000-degree cloud, and of noxious, poisonous fumes, on top of the fact that it was this pyroclastic cloud that was thousands of degrees, giving off thousands of degrees of heat. That killed the people way before the lava even got there.
That's usually what kills most people with volcanoes.
Yeah.
It's this pyroclastic flow. Are we assuming that she's such an awesome elf that she can live through this? Because clearly she's gonna. We haven't seen the next episode. There's no way she doesn't die.
Well, the thing is
that she doesn't live.
The thing is that not only does she survive, but the Numenorians and the villagers survive this too.
We don't know that for sure.
Well,
we haven't seen that episode.
Yeah, we haven't seen that episode.
My assumption would be some might survive. My guess would be.
Yeah.
Based
on the fact that this is the final episode.
We're not even that. We've got 2 more after this, so this is the 3rd to last.
Right.
Yeah, we've got more.
Yeah. So the main characters all survive.
Oh, of course they will.
Somehow, in the face of imminent death, they survive.
This is supposed to be a big moment for the show. You're supposed to be, oh my gosh, what an amazing moment. How could this be? That's an explosion of a volcano. It's supposed to blow us away. This is supposed to be the big, exciting event for the series. How did it come across to you, Ross?
Sorry, my headphones kind of cut out. Say that again.
Well, this is supposed to be a big moment for the show. This is supposed to be a big, shocking, pivotal moment for the show. This volcano goes off and like kills everybody, and Adar's secret plan that he's been conniving for how long. We're supposed to be surprised and shocked and blown away by the events of the show. How did you respond?
What? Why? That's dumb. So can I read a little into? I mean, he kind of mentioned this anyway, and
Right.
it's sort of very much implied, even if he didn't say it explicitly.
Uh,
But so he wants the volcano to erupt to darken the sky so his orcs don't burn. Am I
that
presuming that's
seems
what
to
they're
be
implying?
what's happening.
So that'll last for what? 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Then they gotta find more water. Erupted again.
Then you got to find another Sauron reservoir to empty into the volcano. like this isn't a big enough eruption to like throw the world. It's not
Another
like the
Sauron
meteor
Public
that
Works.
hit. Yeah, it's not like it's the asteroid or whatever that hit the Earth and killed the dinosaurs. Like this is like a big eruption, but like it's gonna darken the skies in this area for like a little while. Like I just don't understand. Like okay,
You're not supposed to
I
be
don't know.
thinking
Oh,
about it.
I know.
and yet I am
I know.
because
I
it's so
understand.
stupid.
You're just supposed to go, oh
Sauron
my
was
gosh.
playing Monopoly,
Yeah.
and he bought Waterworks.
Oh, yeah, he did.
He got
This is just Chinatown, but
he got
it's
all the
Lord of the Rings.
utilities.
That's all the show is.
Yeah, he got all the utilities
Let
and
me
the
tell you this,
Southlands.
Mr. Gitz.
I want to have more passion about this event to try and explain, but it's just so exhaustingly stupid.
It's really
Are we
bad.
being unfair? What is the show trying to tell us? How are we supposed to feel? Put
don't
yourself
know.
in the place of what the show is trying to give you, because they don't set out to make something what we perceive as dumb. So are we being unfair? Are we not exposing ourselves to are we not allowing the show to lead us by hand emotionally in the direction it wants us to go? What?
I would
Rum?
say
Oh.
no. That that they're just not being clear enough in what they're trying to accomplish here.
Well, what are we missing?
Well, and the show seems to suffer from the problem that a lot of shows have certainly since Lost. Everything's a mystery.
Yeah,
We don't know what they're up to, but they're up to something, and we're going to find out.
the mystery box
because
style
Game of Thrones
writing.
had that, but Game of Thrones, because in the first, I don't know if you remember, but in the first season, the big thing was finding Robert Baratheon's bastards.
Uh-huh.
But that was something that was very clear and made obvious sense why that matters. But it just, I don't know, like the mystery, intrigue, whoa. And at least with I will say this in credit to the show and for the actual smart character Farazan, at least they took the time to explain why he wants them to do that.
Yeah.
Why he is okay with the sudden change of heart, because
He
sees
foreshadowed
the logical, the logical, smart reason of hey, more humans to trade with and to be on our side is not a bad thing. But this, I don't know, man. It's so dumb.
How about I goad a bit of discussion in a few different directions. So Silver, what is Galadriel supposed to be feeling right now? So walk with me.
So hard to tell.
Walk with me through the psychology of this. Her whole goal is to find Sauron because she's got just a massive boner
Huge chip on her
for
shoulder.
murder. She wants revenge for her brother, even though her husband probably means more to her, but she's never spoken about the guy. She's got this murder boner to kill Sauron. She's got to go find him. She's jonesing to do it. So she jumps into the middle of the ocean, where she should die with no land in sight in the middle of essentially the Atlantic. But she randomly gets picked up and then convinces the people that picked her up to go on a murderous revenge plot to go take these things out. She has got a pressing, aggressive, need to fulfill her goal. And she gets here and it all collapses on top of her, which sort of explains why her emotional response. Everything I've been trying to do has fallen apart. It's her falling apart in front of you. She's in shock. She's objectively just falling apart. She doesn't know how to respond to the events that have taken place, because everything she's been pushing for no longer is going anywhere. What do you think, Silver?
I think it's definitely she's experiencing defeat there, but I'm not entirely sure why. Is she seeing it as oh, this volcano went off? Whoever, what's his name's plan for this succeeded. Does she see this as oh yeah, Sauron's coming back, or Morgoth, the great evil? Is that how she sees it? This is his coming? Is this volcano going off? But I feel like we don't know enough about why this volcano is important.
Well, right, but I suppose she sees her crusade against evil collapses when they essentially ignite a volcano and kill everybody.
Yeah, but she doesn't know why either, so...
She also doesn't know what the situation in the Southlands is.
No. She has magical spies because she knew exactly where the battle was.
Because didn't they say all the at least around this village, all those people are captured and probably dead already?
No, this volcano goes off, and it probably would wipe out a village, the one that's there, and the tiny army she brought, and that's it. It's not an impactful large scale. I don't know. If it was a giant army and a huge battle and everything, and this volcano goes off, and the orc army's yeah, we've done it, then maybe that'd be more impactful.
Yeah, perhaps. Still a lot of questions left to be answered. How things are going to play out with these different characters, their emotions, their motivations. It's a pivotal episode, and I don't think we got much from it. Final thoughts on the episode overall, Jason, as we finish up reviewing episode whatever this is.
6. This one was definitely worse than the previous episode. Last episode I felt was just boring. This one I felt was there were so many more stupid things going on in this episode that had no logical reasoning behind it. And then we're left at the end with supposedly a cliffhanger. I'm going to assume that we were left with this ending as a kind of a, will they survive or not? But we can't have Galadriel die right here. So somehow she's surviving this this event that should kill everything in a very large radius around this volcano. And just because of that, this episode was probably one of the worst, to be honest.
Ross.
Yeah, this was supposed to be pivotal, and it just kind of fell flat at every chance it had, I guess. The show, every step it takes 5 backwards, I think is a text I sent you, and it's similar every time. One thing they do good, and then the rest is just terrible. And I don't know. This does not leave me excited for the rest of the season, other than to see how many people are going to survive the pyroclastic flow.
You want to know something you're going to be hyped about? I know you're going to love this. Our viewing schedule is going to be weird when season 2 comes out, because the initial release is going to be 3 episodes.
No. Oh my god, no. No.
And in order to stay in the hype of being involved and everybody reviewing it, I don't know how we're going to review 3 episodes in one night.
We can't do the rest of the podcast. It just has to be Rings of Power night.
Yeah, Rings of Power night. It's
Oh
Rings of
my
Power
God,
season
this
2
is-
night.
Probably
Power
3.5, almost 4 hours of fucking Rings of Power. Kill me.
God.
Oh my god.
Oh, you know what we could do? We could all get together. Well, the problem with all getting together and watching it all at the same time is we're not going to listen to things that are happening and talk the whole time.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Maybe we should scratch
Good
that.
chance.
Good chance.
I do like that
Silver-
idea, but
I mean, you could watch it if you wanted together for a 3-hour bonanza.
oh god.
Silver.
This episode just made me more confused on what the heck is happening.
So you're more confused.
So much more confused. The whole damn thing. The motivations thing.
I thought you
I
cursed
don't
there
know
for a
how to
second.
explain it.
The whole damn thing.
The whole damn thing. It's just
Have you ever heard me curse? Let's be honest.
A little bit right there.
This was a crackter.
What was it? Summer vacation? We're here to talk about the damn. Or Vegas vacation. That's what it was.
Yeah.
So sorry, Silver. Your overall impressions of the episode was one of your favorites.
No. I hated this one probably most of all.
Cynically, this might be my favorite because it's so jank. It's so
It's
stupid. I
very
was like,
jank.
oh, this is my favorite.
It's very confusing.
Oh,
I
it's
kept
so
getting
bad.
lost. I'm like, hold on, what the heck just happened there? Go back a few seconds.
You have to
I'm
keep
still
rewinding
lost.
it.
Yeah. Like, I'm not even going to watch this a second time to try and fully understand it. I don't have it in me.
No, I fully expect a lot of you to abandon Rings of Power forever after the first season.
Oh yeah.
Just
I
never
need to
going
take a
back.
vacation from this show.
Oh,
All right.
that's what you think you're gonna get. No.
Yeah, you think
Yeah, I get
three,
3 episodes. in
3-hour
season 2.
bonanza as season 2 comes up.
Ugh.
Kill me.
I think my least favorite episode is still the last one. Boring and
Yeah, that
bad
one
is
was
still
boring.
better than. At least I got to see Volcano Bad. As dumb
Yeah.
as everything was, it's like, ooh, pretty lights. and all that.
Dante's Peak.
I love Dante's Peak. Shove it.
Adar's
That is a
Peak.
good movie.
Adar's Peak. You remember Volcano, where the volcano went off in LA and they were stopping it with highway dividers?
Oh my god.
Oh. Wow.
Tommy Lee Jones is an amazing actor.
He's just in
And a
Volcano.
really good guy for Japanese ads.
Well, Japanese love that man. This is beside the point. Rings of Power. Yeah, another exciting episode. We will be seeing you guys again on episode 7. Hopefully we could keep up with the release schedule of Saturday or Friday. This last one didn't make it out till Saturday, but we will see you guys in the future as we make it to the penultimate episode in the next one. I'm excited to see where this thing goes. We need to get out of here. Kick It is screaming. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Ah.
If you like the show, follow Rhett, Jason, Ross, and Silver, the world's most lethally stupid internet personalities, on Twitter at DG Podcast or on Instagram at Distracted Gamers. If you liked or hated what you heard here today, you can email them at thedistractedgamers@gmail.com and share your feelings. Not that Jason would care, since he hasn't any, of course.
Oh my God, it's so juicy.